Hey everybody, this is Zachary Jeans. Let's keep walking through the Bible. So today is day 420. That's right, we're on episode 420, and we are beginning a new book. We're starting 2 Samuel. Now, 2 Samuel has a lot of drama, just like 1 Samuel. But now we're going to follow the life of David and some of the king's situation and the back and forth that goes on, and it's pretty ugly. It's, life's messy, and authority and worldly power causes people to do all kinds of strange things that, on any given Sunday, you'd say, hey, why are you doing that? But when you're ruling nations and fighting off other nations and vying for power, people act pretty, wrongly at times. So we'll try and sort all that stuff out as we're going through 2 Samuel. Are we going to be able to? No. I think the meditation on David and the kings that follow is one that can take a long time, because in each and every situation, you're seeing both their imperfections as human beings, and then you also see God's providential hand, and God also using just downright wrong people for right reasons, and wrong actions for right reasons, and moving the chessboard of reality around. And that's okay. That's okay, because I think at the core of the message of the Bible is that we're sinful and that God loves us anyway. And when we say sinful, it's not that we had a bad attitude at church. It means there's real awful sin, rebellion against God and other people. So, for God so loved the world that he gave his only son, that whoever believes in him won't die, won't perish. You'll have eternal life, right? So the message is he sent to save sinful people, not basically good people who have bad days. All right. So anyway, hey, get a sip of coffee. That's actually an Americano. I got at the coffee shop where my son is working at church, and it's fun. Yeah, he works there, and I get to kind of go through line, and he hands me the coffee. And if any of you do know me from back in the day, I too worked at a coffee shop. Many adventures working at a coffee shop, 24-hour coffee shop. So love that. So it's cool to see him doing that as well. All right, hey, why don't we stop? Why don't we pray? But afterwards, I want you to hit that pause button. We're going to read chapters 1 through 4. It's a good chunk of text. And of course, we won't read all that out loud. So I do want you to go ahead and take time, read the text, listen to it, pull up an audio version, whatever. Listen to it, take a minute, soak it in. We'll go for it, okay? All right. Lord, I love you. God, thanks for your word. Thanks for giving me this opportunity to teach your word. God, I am a sinful person. God, I'm weak and broken, and I don't make great decisions all the time. And but I do want to draw near to you, and I want to make you known today. I want to know you and make you known. God, please protect me, my family, those around me, my friends. God, I just lift up the little sphere of reality that you've given me, and God, just ask for your mercy and your blessing, and God, to bring us through light and truth, Lord. God, I love you. Jesus, you are awesome. You did pay for all my sin. God, you did save me, and you have liberated me in this world. And I see it every day. I see you moving the chess pieces here. So, Lord, I lay all this at your feet. God, we ask that you'd open up our hearts and our minds right now. God, please urge people to read the Bible or listen to it, and then get back with me. It's in your name I pray. Amen. All right. I know the Lord's pushing on you to read. You're like, am I going to do it? Yeah, you're going to do it. Hit that pause button. Read. Come on back. All right. Now, 2 Samuel, verse 1, chapter 1. After the death of Saul, when David had returned from striking down the Amalekites, note that. Who did he go strike down? The Amalekites. David remained 2 days in Ziklag. That's the town that he'd been living in the Philistine area, okay? That was the town given to him by Achish, the king of the Philistines. And on the third day, behold, a man came from Saul's camp with his clothes torn and dirt on his head. And when he came to David, he fell to the ground and paid homage. David said to him, "Where do you come from?" And he said to him, "I have escaped from the camp of Israel." David said to him, "How did it go? Tell me." You have a guy that's been running and wandering his way through who knows what. And he's found his way back to David. Okay, and he falls down, and he gives proper, adoration, homage to him as a leader, a warrior, a king. Maybe not as king of Israel yet, right? But as the leader of the people there in Ziklag. And David wants to know how to go. So, because remember, he was pulled off the battle line and back to Ziklag, and then finds out that his whole family and everything was taken away by the Amalekites. Okay. So how to go? Tell me. And he answered, "The people fled from the battle. Also many of the people have fallen and are dead. And Saul and his son Jonathan are also dead." Then David said to the young man who told him, "How do you know that Saul and his son Jonathan are dead?" I need proof. I need at least some sort of story that makes sense, right? And it's always good. I mean, just ask for more information. Okay. Be a Berean. Yeah, if you've read Acts, you know the Bereans. All right. So, how do you know that Saul and his son Jonathan are dead? And the young man who had told him said, "By chance, I happened to be on Mount Gilboa, and there was Saul leaning on his spear. And behold, the chariots and the horsemen were close upon him. When he looked behind him, he saw me, and he called to me, and I answered, and he said, 'Here I am.' He said to me, 'Who are you?' And I answered him, and I said, 'I am an Amalekite.' And he said to me, 'Stand beside me and kill me, for anguish has seized me. Yet my life still lingers.'" Remember, Saul tried to commit suicide. And for those of you who have experienced surviving a suicide, I'm glad you're alive. We all are. Okay. But I know that many people who have attempted to take their life because the enemy in their own soul that is languished to the point of wanting death, and then you survive, you have that survivor's guilt. Saul is here. He's fallen literally on his sword, because remember, his sword bearer, basically his number two, is there to carry his armor and this and that, wouldn't kill him. The battle's going really bad. Saul decides it's time to commit suicide and kill himself. He tries to, and he survives, and now he's languishing, and he doesn't even have the strength to kill himself because he's hurt, but he's not dead. God's got a plan for you. God's got a plan for you. May not be some sort of Hollywood movie. It might be, and you don't know. A lot of the victory of life is keeping the faith and loving the people around you and taking the opportunities God gives you in the moment. Okay? So just want to encourage you, if you've been through suicide, if you've had somebody in that situation that's despairing of life, you're loved. You're so loved. Even in this broken, messed up, effed up world, right? You're loved. It's broken, it sucks, and there are people who don't love you, but you are loved by the Lord. And God's got a plan for you. Okay? All right, so this Amalekite, Saul asked him to kill him, right? So he said, "Stand beside me and kill me," this and that. So I stood beside him and I killed him, because I was sure that he could not live after he had fallen. And I took the crown that was on his head, the armlet that was on his arm, and I brought them here to my Lord. This guy thought he was doing the right thing, right? I mean, everybody had heard the whole back and forth between David and Saul by now. Verse 11, then David took hold of his clothes and he tore them, and so did all the men who were with him. And they mourned and wept and fasted until evening for Saul and for Jonathan his son, for the people of the Lord and for the house of Israel, because they had fallen by the sword. It broke them. They mourned, even for their enemies, their brothers, who they're at war with. It's a good word about unity. Even in the midst of division and conflict, there is an underlying empathy and compassion for other people in their lives. And that at some point, even amidst great division, that there's a brokenness for those people because they're people and they've been hurt and that they've lost and they face the consequences of their decisions. So, yeah, there's no rejoicing in the death of Saul. There's no rejoicing, of course, for David in the loss of Jonathan, or even Israel, all these nations that have been up and after David. And this isn't the end of the conflict or the wars between Judah and Israel. It's not the end. It's only the beginning. So it's not as if he's like, oh, and he's crying for 3 days or whatever. And then it's like, okay, we're making peace and, we aren't going to have any more fights. No, there's going to be more. Okay. So David says to him, and David said to the young man who told him, where do you come from? And he answered, I'm the son of a sojourner, an Amalekite. David said to him, how is it that you are not afraid to put out your hand to destroy the Lord's anointed? Then David called one of the young men and he said, go execute him. And he struck him down so that he died. And they killed the messenger. Well, he's more than a messenger. He was an actor in the process. But, this is one of those troubling passages. Did David do the right thing? Did he act out of anger and grief? It was the Amalekites as a people that had just taken his family and everyone that was beloved to him, and he had to go fight them. And he's back for, a little bit, and then he hears about Saul, and this guy's an Amalekite, and he kills Saul. He did what Saul asked him, right? This is one of those weird things where even David's own people had questions. Like, David, yeah, I get it. He's the Lord's anointed Saul. But I kind of think that's off the table right now with this whole back and forth between you and him. Like, he's literally trying to kill you. David wouldn't kill Saul. So, is it okay if Saul had died in battle? Yeah, I guess David's cool with that. He'd still be mad, right? He'd still mourn Saul, even though Saul was trying to kill him. But on the other hand, here's this Amalekite who's offering Saul, even in his just languishing death moments. It's like Boromir up against the tree in Lord of the Rings. And it's like, he's languishing for life, and be like Boromir asking Aragorn to, help him finish his life off, to end the suffering. Now, in the story of the Lord of the Rings, Boromir goes ahead and, he dies without any assistance. He'd been pierced with many arrows. In this case, in a story of Saul, he had already been shot with many arrows, and then he tried to die on his own sword, and that didn't work out. And now he's like languishing, still dying in great pain. And he asked for somebody to help him like step out because he's at the end. And David sees that as a huge offense to the Lord, and he has this young man killed. I'm not going to tell you how to feel about that. I'm not going to tell you how to feel about people if you're a part of the situation where somebody's hanging on for life and they're ready to go, and you're at the hospital and you're a part of the last call to decide whether or not they're taking off life support or, allowed to pass on. I don't know. That's really hard stuff. I'm not telling you how to think about this passage, but this passage stirs that stuff up, stuff to chew on. Okay. I will say though, how do I judge difficult passages like this? I look to see if the scripture rebukes the action. Does it say anything about, is it mute? Is it just silent? Or does it say something positive? Well, let's keep reading. So David said to him, how is it that you're not afraid? And he said, go execute him. And he does. And David, verse 16, said to him, your blood be on your own head. Your own mouth testified against you, saying, I have killed the Lord's anointed. Then David sings a song. He sings a song on behalf of Jonathan and Saul. After this, chapter 2. Oh, so to finish my point, do we get anything there where David's being rebuked by a prophet? Is he being rebuked by the scriptures itself, the author of this book? Is it silent? Yes, it's silent. David speaks. He is a prophet of God. He is the Lord's anointed himself. He is one set apart by God for God's glory. I mean, he's the king that Jesus's line comes through, right? So there is some authority there when he says, hey, Lord said, blood be on your own head. That's where he's coming from. Okay? I'm still looking at it from David's point of view. Is David doing right? I give him the benefit of the doubt that he acted right in this sort of war circumstance, right? But the Bible's pretty silent. It says neither good nor bad. And sometimes we're called to have all these opinions in the world. Well, what do you think about this? What do you think about that political candidate? What do you think about that person said this on this news show? I don't know. I'm leaning one way. I kind of see something else. I don't know. 72-hour rule. Or maybe 72-week rule. I don't know. Sometimes I'm like, I don't know. I could see something. Could make a judgment here. I don't know. The Bible's silent on this for the most part. Okay? So I won't read the poem. I won't read the song. But he loves David, or he loves Saul in a way. Even though he's a broken man and he was the Lord's anointed, he honors the person in the position. I think we should keep that in mind in politics. And he loves Jonathan as his own brother. Okay. So chapter 2, David inquired of the Lord, shall I go up to any of the cities of Judah? And the Lord said to him, go up. And David said, to which shall I go up? And he said, to Hebron. So David went up there, and his 2 wives also, Ahinoam, Jezreel, and Abigail, the widow of Nabal of Carmel. So this soon-to-be royal family, in a way, right? Before he's anointed king over Israel and Judah. But right now, just sort of leading Judah, or will. And David brought up his men who were with him, every one with his household, and they lived in the towns of Hebron. The men of Judah came over there, and they anointed David king over the house of Judah. So when they told David it was the men of Jabesh Gilead who buried Saul, David sent messengers to the men of Jabesh Gilead and said to him, may you be blessed by the Lord, because you showed this loyalty to Saul, your Lord, and buried him. Now may the Lord show steadfast love and faithfulness to you, and I will do good to you because you have done this thing. Now therefore let your servants' hands be strong and be valiant, for Saul your Lord is dead. The house of Judah has anointed me king over him. So he offers kindness and blessing to those who honored Saul, who might otherwise be opposed to David because they were in opposition, Saul and David, right? He could have been harsh, right? But he wasn't. He was kind. He was benevolent, rather. So, but Abner, the son of Ner, commander of Saul's army, Abner, remember that, is the commander of Saul's army. Abner took Ish-bosheth, the son of Saul, and brought him over to Mahanaim, and made him king over Gilead, and the Asherites, and Jezreel, and Ephraim, and Benjamin, and all Israel. Ish-bosheth, Saul's son, was 40 years old, and when he began to reign over Israel. And he reigned 2 years. But the house of Judah followed David. And the time that David was king in Hebron over the house of Judah was 7 years and 6 months. So the time which he'll be in Hebron versus the time which he'll be in Jerusalem, this is a window of time when he's not yet king over all of Judah and Israel. He's just king over Judah for the most part. So Abner, again, commander of Saul's army, set up this king, Saul's son, Ish-bosheth. And now Abner is going to have some interactions. So Abner, the son of Ner, the servants of Ish-bosheth, the son of Saul, went out to Mahanaim of Gibeon. To Joab, the son of Zeruiah, and the servants of David went out to meet them at the pool of Gibeon. So you have David's commander, Joab, and you have Saul's commander, now Saul being dead, but Ish-bosheth's commander, Abner. So you have Abner and Joab. And they go and they meet and they sort of have a meeting of the minds. They bring a couple chunks of soldiers with them and go meet by this pool. And they said, hey, got an idea. Why don't we have our young men kind of go and fight for us in sort of like a gladiatorial style battle? Okay. So they arose and they passed over 12 for Benjamin and Ish-bosheth, the son of Saul, and 12 for the servants of David. Each caught his opponent by the head and thrust his sword in his opponent's side, so they fell down. So therefore that place was called Helkath Hazarim, which is at Gibeon. And that means the field of sword edges. And they did that, and they ended up having a horrific battle. Okay. And 3 sons of Zeruiah were there: Joab, Abishai, and Asahel. And Asahel was a swift foot as a wild gazelle, super fast guy. So you have Asahel, can never pronounce that person's name, but Asahel. Okay. Then Abner decided to go ahead and follow him, right? Or rather, it's Asahel is following Abner, right? And Abner's like this mighty warrior, commander of Saul's armies, right? Now Ish-bosheth. And Asahel is following Abner, chasing him down. And he won't turn aside. And Abner's given him every opportunity to turn aside. And he doesn't want to kill him because this is a prominent family member. He's a brother of Joab, the commander of David's armies, like of Judah. Like, this is no, minor soldier. This is an important person in Judah's leadership, right? So he's giving this guy every opportunity. Hey, back off. And he won't. So he takes a spear and he thrusts it behind him, the butt end, and he pushes it all the way through the guy, and he dies. So Joab is pissed, right? And he chases down Abner. And the sun was going down. They came to the hill of Ammah, which lies before Giah, on the way to the wilderness of Gibeon. And the people of Benjamin gathered themselves together behind Abner and became one group and took their stand upon a hill. Then Abner called to Joab. So Judah's pursuing, the Benjamites and basically Saul's side, right? So you got tribe of Benjamin stands with Abner, who's just put the butt of his spear through one of David's commander's brothers. And David's commander, Joab, the brother that's been taking the offense, right, is chasing him down. So Abner calls to Joab, "Shall the sword devour forever? Do you not know that the end will be bitter? How long will it be before you tell your people to turn from the pursuit of their brothers?" Joab says, "As God lives, if you had not spoken, surely the men would not have given up the pursuit of their brothers until the morning." So Joab blew the trumpet, and all the men stopped and pursued Israel no more, nor did they fight any more. And Abner and his men went all that night through the Arabah. They crossed the Jordan, and marching the whole morning, they came to Mahanaim. Joab returned from the pursuit of Abner, and when he had gathered all the people together there, they were missing from David's servants 19 men besides Asahel. But the servants of David had struck down Benjamin, 360 of Abner's men. They took up Asahel and buried him in the tomb of his father, which is at Bethlehem. And Joab and his men marched all the night, and the day broke upon them in Hebron. So basically he says, look, man, if we keep doing this, you keep hunting it down, it's just going to get worse and worse and worse. And to his point, he was telling Joab basically, you're getting one of us, but we're getting like 10 of you or more, right? 360 dudes fell, for Benjamin's side, but 19 fell for Judah's side. It wasn't going well for him. He's like, look, this is going to be horrible on both sides, but it's going to be worse for you, basically. And it made sense to Joab. But there's a long war, chapter 3, verse 1, between the house of Saul and the house of David. And David grew stronger and stronger, while the house of Saul became weaker and weaker. So same parallel to this little battle, this little conflict, right? 360 dead for, Saul's side, or the remnants of Saul's side, and, 19 dead for David's side. Verse 2, his sons were born to David at Hebron. The first son was Amnon of Ahinoam, Jezreel, and his second, Chileab of Abigail, the widow of Nabal of Carmel. The third was Absalom, son of Maacah, the daughter of Talmai, king of Geshur. And the fourth was Adonijah, son of Haggith. And the fifth was Shephatiah, the son of Abital. And the sixth was Ithream of Eglah, David's wife. These were born to David in Hebron. Now, some of these names will become very famous to us, especially Absalom. While there's a war between the house of Saul and the house of David, Abner was making himself strong in the house of Saul. Again, the commander of Saul's armies. Now, Saul had a concubine whose name was Rizpah, the daughter of Aiah. And Ish-bosheth, that's the king in Saul's place, Ish-bosheth said to Abner, "Why have you gone into my father's concubine? Why'd you have sex with her?" Like, in other words, are you making a play for the throne here? Like, I'm in charge, but you set me up. Now you're sleeping with my dad's, wife, or ex kind of concubine, not really wife, but, you're trying to set yourself up with someone. So he's accusing Abner of doing this. Abner was very angry over the words of Ish-bosheth and said, "Am I a dog's head of Judah?" Lowest of the low. To this day, I keep showing you steadfast love to the house of Saul your father, to his brothers, to his friends. I'm not giving you into the hand of David. Yet you charge me today with a fault concerning this woman? God do it so to Abner, and more also, if I do not accomplish for David what the Lord has sworn to him, to transfer the kingdom from the house of Saul, set up the throne of David for Israel over Judah, from Dan to Beersheba. And Ish-bosheth could not answer Abner another word because he feared him. He done screwed up. He had this incredible commander, and he had every opportunity to have his support, who had established his own throne there. And Ish-bosheth, gets all petty and accuses him over some sort of dating issue in the kingdom. And it's like, you just offended the one guy, dude, that you shouldn't have offended. And he flips Abner. He flips Abner for David. So Abner sent messengers to David on his behalf, saying, "To whom does this land belong? Make your covenant with me, and behold, my hand shall be with you to bring over all Israel to you." And he said, "Good, I will make a covenant with you. But one thing I require of you, that is, you shall not see my face unless you bring Michal, Saul's daughter, when you come to see my face." Now remember, Michal had been given to another man after she'd been already given to David. So David sent messengers to Ish-bosheth, Saul's son, saying, "Give me my wife Michal," so on and so forth. And this other guy, he's just following after her, just crying and lamenting, "You're taking this woman away from me," because it greatly elevated this guy's life, right? When you marry into the kingdom, into leadership, this guy was getting a lot of extras from that relationship. And I don't know that he really loved her or whatever. It was a marriage that Saul just said, "Hey, you're going to marry my daughter now that David's out." So I don't know. Maybe if some of you have been around some higher society stuff and you've seen this stuff where, alliances, relationships are built, arranged marriages even, and there's not a whole lot of real love there. And when the relationship ends, there's sorrow, but it's not really sorrow for losing the other person. They're more like sorrowful because they've lost the position or the opportunities that came with those associations, that relationship, whether it's dating, or marriage. We kind of see this in modern times with football players and pop stars, basketball players and reality TV queens, where they're getting together, maybe not getting married, but, hooking up, and then, it serves a purpose for a season of time, and then they move on and they start up another one. So anyway, this guy is pretty brokenhearted. I don't know that he's all that brokenhearted about her. That's my opinion. And Abner conferred with the elders of Israel, saying, for some time past you've been seeking David as king over you, and now then bring it about. For the Lord has promised David, saying, by the hand of my servant David, I will save my people Israel from the hand of Philistines, from the hand of all their enemies. Abner also spoke to Benjamin, right, tribe of Benjamin. And then Abner went to tell David at Hebron all that Israel had, and the whole house of Benjamin thought what good to do for David. Okay. So Abner came with 20 men to David at Hebron. David made a feast for Abner, the men who were with him. And Abner said, I will arise and go and will gather all Israel to my lord the king. So he's got Saul's general, basically, who had installed Ish-bosheth. Ish-bosheth betrays Abner's trust. Abner says, fine, you done screwed up, son. Says, you're done. I'm going to go make right with David. David says, one condition, you bring me back my wife from Saul. This will also establish his sort of authority relationship at the house of Saul. So that's also political too. It's not that he's lacking wives. These are marriages of not just convenience, but for power. Okay. So David's not off the hook for not having true love or whatever. Okay. So then David sent Abner away, and he went in peace. And just as the servants of David arrived with Joab from a raid, this is Joab is commander of David's armies. Joab shows up, finds out Abner had been around. Abner was not with David at Hebron, for he had sent him away, and he'd gone in peace. When Joab and all the army that was with him came, it was told Joab, Abner, son of Ner, this is the guy who killed Joab's brother, came to the king, and he has let him go, and he's gone in peace. Then Joab went to the king and said, what have you done? Behold, Abner came to you. Why is it that you have sent him away so that he's gone? You know that Abner, the son of Ner, came to deceive you. You know that you're going out and you're coming. He knows you're going out and you're coming in. He read you. He was a spy, is what Joab's saying. So Joab came out from David's presence. He sent messengers after Abner, and they brought him back from the cistern of Sarah. But David didn't know about it. So Joab goes after Abner and says, hey, we got more messages for you. And so when Abner returned to Hebron, Joab took him aside into the midst of the gate to speak with him privately. And there he struck him in the stomach so that he died for the blood of Asahel, his brother. And afterward, when David heard of it, he said, I and my kingdom are forever guiltless before the Lord for the blood of Abner, the son of Ner. May it fall upon the head of Joab and upon all his father's house, and may the house of Joab never be without one who has a discharge or a leprous or holds a spindle or falls by the sword or lacks bread. Basically curses his household for this ridiculous act of jealousy. He wanted to, Joab was consumed with his vengeance to avenge his brother's death. And it got in the way of him seeing the bigger picture. Everyone had lost someone. Everyone had lost somebody in this conflict. And David's trying to unite a kingdom that had been at war with itself in civil war. And he's like, man, we all got to get over ourselves. And Joab was like, I'm not getting over the death of my brother. Even though it was his brother who was pursuing Abner, trying to kill the dude. And the guy just in self-defense kills the guy, but Joab's not having it. So Joab can't see past his own jealousy, right? His own vengeance, his own wrath, and cost potentially the peace and the unity of Judah and the rest of the houses of Israel. So David says to Joab and to all the people that were near him, tear your clothes, put on sackcloth, mourn for Abner. And King David followed the bier, and they buried Abner at Hebron. And the king lifted up his voice and wept at the grave of Abner, and all the people wept, and the king lamented for Abner. People wept again over him. And the king did all this, and it pleased the people. Now, was he really heartbroken? Sometimes you got to show the right emotion in the right situation, even if you aren't like feeling it, right? And that's what I'm telling you. That's what he told Joab. You better do this. You better do this so you can make right. Now, chapter 4, we won't read all of. And that's why I encourage you to read all these chapters. But the sum of it is that Ish-bosheth now, his opponent, right? The other king, the house of Saul, Saul's son, the guy who Abner is like, look, you screwed up. You messed with the wrong dude, accusing me of sleeping with one of your dad's girls. And Abner tried to basically turn on Ish-bosheth. And now Abner's dead because Joab murdered him. And now Ish-bosheth, he dies. And we have Mephibosheth, one of Saul's, Jonathan's son, Saul's grandson, who had been dropped when he was a little kid and fleeing all this conflict. And David looks to unite again the kingdom. And what does he do? He shows kindness to one of these descendants, even though Ish-bosheth is dead. And the house of Saul will be looking for another descendant of Saul, right? They'll be looking for somebody to anoint king over their faction of Israel to, get behind him and push against David. But so David, who has every right to show, this sort of political power play and have him killed, what does he do? He invites him to sit at his table. And he loves this young man. And this young man loves David. And this act of mercy, this act of grace towards this young man who's got some foot issues, got some, not looked well upon because of his injuries as a young man. So he's looked kind of like less than, and also an enemy of the house of David because he's from the house of Saul. David shows him love, right? All right. Well, hey, God bless you. I hope this passage speaks to you. I know it does to me. So just trust that God's working in your life. Lay this at his feet. I'll tell you, keep walking, okay? No matter what, you screwed up, messed up big time, messed up a little bit. Keep walking, all right? Walk by faith. God bless you. Bye-bye.